when reading a burette, you have to read it from the bottom of the meniscus. If you look closely, this is saying, here's 0 to 1, here's 2, and we count down, we're at 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4 milliliters. That is our starting point. So we start at 2.4, you're going to write that number down. Now we're going to titrate our KHP sample with the sodium hydroxide we've just prepared in our burette. Remember, we started at 2.4 milliliters, so we're going to decide how much sodium hydroxide it's going to take to neutralize this KHP. So if I put the KHP solution underneath and I drop the burette tip so it's below the mouth of the flask, this is the part where we're actually going to do some titrating. If I open the stopcock here and sodium hydroxide starts to enter the solution, you can see right away that it's starting to turn pink. And that's because the instantaneous reaction of the sodium hydroxide with the KHP and the phenolphthalein, you'll get that pink color. What we want to do is, at the moment where this just starts to turn pink, that's the point where you've neutralized all the KHP. So the trick is getting it to that point. You don't want to go over. What I like to do is my first trial will be a very rough estimate. So I'm just going to let this rip. And you'll notice I'm swirling the whole time, and you're going to get more and more pink color. But if I were to stop and swirl, the pink color slowly disappears. If I continue, a lot of times you can have your lab partner swirl and the other person runs the valve. Pretty soon it's going to stay. We're going to stop it. See how it stayed pink? Now I did a terrible job, but I learned something. Here's what I learned. If I focus in here, I went from 2.4 down to about 33. So I put in 31 milliliters, give or take, of sodium hydroxide. I know now that if I do the exact same number of KHP, that I won't need more than 31 milliliters. So I know kind of that range, so I can put in 25 and then go slow and figure out where exactly. So it saves you a little time to do that really rough estimate first. So where I'm at now, I put in about 25 milliliters of sodium hydroxide into my next sample, which would be our first official trial. I know it's going to be somewhere between 25 and 30 milliliters. So at this point, there's lots of techniques. So your lab partner and you can work together. One can swirl, one can run this valve. I've seen some people that will get a nice steady drip like this and continue to swirl. I've seen quick, if you turn the valve back and forth, you get little squirts. But we need to come up with a technique that gets us there, and we want it to turn pink with the addition of one drop. So the closer you get, the slower you need to go. So I may not be that close yet, so I'm going to go a weak stream here, but you notice it stays pink longer, so I know I'm close. So again, you'll have a lab partner here, so one will be swirling, the other will slowly be turning, and we can get this thing to go really slow to the point where we know when it's going to turn, or it's about to turn. So we're getting there. It's staying pink longer with each additional drop. And we're just about there. Look at that. It's probably going to go back to clear, but what that tells me is if I could just get that one more drop, that might do it. So we're very, very close. And that is the secret to titrating. We hit our endpoint. The fainter the pink color, the better you did. The important part is we need to know exactly how much sodium hydroxide we put in. If we don't remember where we started, then the whole trial is off. We need to know exactly where we started and exactly where we ended, and by that we can tell how much volume we put in, and through a little bit of calculations you can figure out how or what the molarity of that sodium hydroxide is. Here we have two different flasks. Here is my rough estimate flask. Here was my little bit better. I think it could have been better yet. You can tell because this one in my right hand is way darker than this one. That's because I went way over with the sodium hydroxide as opposed to this one. Again, the fainter the pink, the better you are at titrating.